making his money flow through the streets of Colombia due to his vast wealth through drug smuggling of cocaine in the United States. At the time of his death, a $30 billion empire was destroyed on a rooftop in Colombia. This is the story of Pablo Escobar.
Ladies and gentlemen of all ages, boys and girls, thank you for tuning in to yet another episode of Angry Meat Production. We appreciate you coming in and letting us be a part of your lives week in and week out. We hope to do our best to present you with something that your eardrums delight in. Whether you're looking at us on YouTube or Rumble, or listening to us on Spotify, Google, or Anchor, or any of the other podcast services that we are currently on or trying to get on. We thank you. And if you don't mind, at the end of every episode, stop by, leave us a comment, leave us a like. If it asks for 5 stars, we'll take 5 stars, even if you don't like us. 5 stars are what it's all about. With that being said, we hope you enjoy our attempt to make our advocation our vocation. Ladies and gentlemen, let the games begin.
Welcome, angry faithful. Today, we're going to go over Pablo Escobar. I don't know if you would call him I think he kind of like invented the big time king of cocaine. I mean, that was what he was dubbed for a long time. But he was a piece of work. The reason why we're going over him today is basically I ended up watching Narcos. So, and I love like the cartel stuff and everything. That's the reason why I have BC on all the time. It's because he likes to talk about uh um gangs and cartels, and I'm fascinated. I never wanted to be in a gang or anything like that, but I'm fascinated about it. I love gangster movies and everything like that. That's the reason why we go over gangsters of the past. So let's go ahead and begin on this. Pablo Emilio Escobar Graves was born December 1st, 1949, and he died December 2nd, 1993. He was a Colombian drug lord, narco terrorist, and a politician who was the founder and sole leader of the Meta, Meta, Medellin? I think it's Medellin.
Madeline.
Oh, Medellin cartel. Dubbed the king of cocaine, Escobar was the wealthiest criminal in history, having assumed an estimate net worth of $30 billion at the time of his death, equivalent to $70 billion in 2022. While his drug cartel monopolized the cocaine trade, I'm going to mess that word up so many times. The reason why I'm messing it up is because I think it was like called Red Heat with Arnold Schwarzenegger. He kept on saying cocaine. So, uh, cocaine trade in the United States between 1980s and the 1990s. Born in Rojano and raised in Medellin, Escobar studied briefly in the Universidad Alumna Latinoamerica of Medellin, but left without graduating. He instead began engaging in criminal act dealing, selling illegal cigarettes and fake lottery tickets, as well as participating in motor vehicle theft. In the early 1970s, he began work on a various drug as a various drug smuggler, often kidnapping and holding people for ransom. In 1976, Escobar found the Medellin cartel, which is distributed. I can't say that word. One of these days I'll get it. Distributed. Y'all can laugh all you want. Uh, distributed. I'm laughing too. Powder cocaine and established the first smuggling routes from Peru, Bolivia, and El Salvador through Colombia and eventually into the United States. Escobar infiltrated into the United States, creating an exponential demand of cocaine by the 1980s, and it was established Escobar led monthly shipments of 770 to 80 tons of cocaine into the country from Colombia. As a result, he quickly became one of the richest people in the United States, in the world, but constantly battling rival cartels domestically and abroad, leading to massacres and murder of police officers, judges, locals, and permanent politicians, making Colombia the murder capital of the world. Now, let's get to his early life. Pablo Escobar was born December 1st, 1949, in Regano, Inquata department. He was the third of 7 children who grew up in poverty in the neighborhood of Medellin. His father was a small farmer and his mother was a teacher. Escobar left high school in 1966, just before his 17th birthday, before returning 2 years later with his cousin Gustavo Garvela. Yeah, if I mess these names up, my bad. I'm not much of a Spanish speaking, even though I come from Texas and we have a lot of Spanish speaking stuff here. At this time, the hard life on the streets of Medellin had published them into gangster bullies in the eyes of the teachers. The two dropped out of school after more than a year, but Escobar, who did not give up, briefly became anonymous in Latin America by forging high school diplomas. He then studied in college with the goal of becoming a criminal lawyer, a politician, and eventually the president, but he gave that up because of the lack of money. Escobar began his criminal career in 1966. Escobar was removed from having started his criminal career with his gang by stealing tombstones, sandblasting their inscriptions, and reselling them. Though, God, that's pretty fucked up. That is really fucked up. After dropping out of school, Escobar began to join the car theft gang, and at the age of 20, had already became a household name for car thieves. He and his gang stole cars and dismantled them to sell their parts, and with enough money on hand, Escobar bribed officials to launder his loot. While arrest records have been lost, Escobar apparently sat in Medellin prison for several months before his 20th birthday. Escobar soon became involved in violent crimes, exploiting criminals to employing criminals to kidnap people who owe him money and demanding ransom, sometimes tearing up tickets even when Escobar received the ransom. His most famous kidnap victim was businessman. I'm going to butcher this name. I'm just going to do the Stephen Hawking voice.
Diego Echevarria.
Diego Echevarria, who was kidnapped and eventually killed in 1971. Escobar received a $50,000 ransom from the Echevarria family. His gang became well known for this kidnapping. The beginning of the Medellin cartel. Escobar had been involved in organized crime for decades when the cocaine trade began to spread in Colombia in the 1970s. One of Colombia's first drug dealers was Filippo Restrepo, who shipped about 40 to 60 kilograms of cocaine to Miami once or twice a year. Under Escobar's mastermind, Restrepo was assassinated in 1975, and Escobar seized his market and business. Escobar's metrics raised also caught the attention of Colombia Security Services, DAS, who arrested him in May 1976 on his return from drug trafficking as Escobar. DAS agents found 39 kilograms of cocaine in the shape of a tire in Escobar's car. Escobar managed to change the first judge in the lawsuit and bribed the second judge. So he was released along with other prisoners. The following year, the agent who arrested Escobar was assassinated. Escobar continued to bribe and intimidate Colombia law enforcement agency with the same fashion. His carrot and stick strategy of bribing public officials in the Colombian government and sent hitmen to murder the ones that rejected his bribe came to be known as the silver or lead, or money or bullets. Escobar had and many other Colombian drug lords bought Colombian politicians in both the New Liberalism Party and the Colombian Liberal Party by contributing by contributing political donations in their political campaign. Hence, Escobar and many other Colombian drug lords managed to infiltrate every level of Colombian government. Because many of the politician candidates whom they backed financially were eventually elected, although the Medellin cartel was only established in the early 1970s, it expanded after Escobar met several drug lords on a farm in April 1978, and by the end of 1978, they had transported more than 19,000 kilograms of cocaine to the United States. Soon, the demand for cocaine greatly increased in the United States, which led to Escobar organizing more smuggling shipments, routes, and distribution networks in South Florida, California, Puerto Rico, and other parts of the country. He and his cartel co-founder Carl Linder worked together to develop new transshipment points in the Bahamas, an island called Norman Cay, about 220 miles, about 350 kilometers, southeast of Florida coast. According to the brother, Escobar did not purchase Norm Cay. It was instead a sole venture of Linder. Escobar and Robert Vesco purchased most of the land on the island, which included a 1 kilometer or 3,300 feet airstrip, a harbor, a hotel, houses, boats, and aircraft, and they built a refrigerated warehouse to store the cocaine. From 1978 to 1982, this was used as the central smuggling routine for the Medellin cartel. With the enormous profits generated by this route, Escobar was soon able to purchase 20 square kilometers or 7.7 square miles of land in Aniqua for several $1 million, on which he built the, I'm going to butcher this, Stephen Hawking voice, save me.
Hacienda Nápoles.
Hacienda Nápoles, a luxury house he created to contain a zoo, a lake, sculpture garden, and a private bull ring, and other amenities for his family and cartel. Escobar was also involved in philanthropy. He was giving people money, but we're gonna have to make a big word.
Philanthropy.
Philanthropy. I still butchered that. In Colombia, and paid handsomely for the staff of his cocaine lab. Escobar spent millions developing some of Medellin's poorest neighborhoods. He helped build roads, power lines, soccer fields. He also built, housing complex for the homeless. Escobar Also entered in politics in 1970s and participated in and supported the formation of the Liberal Party of Colombia. In 1982, he successfully entered Colombian Congress, although only an alternate. He was automatically granted parliamentary immunity and the rights to a diplomatic passport under Colombia law. At the same time, Escobar was gradually becoming a political figure and became a charitable work because of his charitable work. I'm sorry. He was known as Robin Hood Pasta. He alleged once in an interview that his fortune came from bicycle rental company he founded when he was 16. Jesus. Well, politicians lie, so he's actually up on that. In Congress, the new Minister of Justice, Rodrigo Lara Bonilla, had become Escobar's opponent, accusing Escobar of criminal activities in the very first day of Congress. Escobar's arrest in 1976 was investigated by Laura Bonilla's subordinates. A few months later, liberal leader Louis Carr Gallan expelled Escobar from the party. Although Escobar fought back, he announced his retirement from politics in January 1984. 3 months later, Laura Bonilla was found dead. Weird. Colombian jurisdiction had been a target of Escobar throughout the mid 1980s. While bribing and murdering several judges in the fall of 1985, the wanted Escobar requested the Colombian government to allow his conditional surrender without extradition to the United States. This proposal was initially answered in the negative, and Escobar subsequently found and implementedly supported the Los Extraordinary Organization, which aims to fight extradition policies. The Los Extraditionable Organization was subsequently accused of participating in the efforts to prevent the Colombian Supreme Court from studying the conditionally of Colombia's extraordinary treaty with the United States. In support of the November 6, 1985 far-left guerrilla movement that attacked the Colombian jurisdiction, we're just going to have the computer say it.
Judiciary.
Building and killing half of the justice of the Supreme Court. In late 1986, Colombia's Supreme Court declared the previous extradition treaty illegal due to the being signed by president delegate, not the president. Wow, that's a workaround. Escobar's victory over the judiciary was short-lived, with the new president's Barco Vargas having quickly renewed his agreement with the United States. Escobar still held a grudge against Luis Carlos Gallan, who kicked him out of politics and was assassinated, weirdly, on August 18th, 1989. I wonder who did that. At Escobar's orders. Okay, never mind. Escobar then planted a bomb in Alvaline Flight 203 in the attempt to assassinate Gallan's successor, Cesar Galva Charlino, who missed the plane and survived, but was on board all. He survived, but fuck it. All 107 people were killed in the blast. Because the 2 Americans were also killed in the bomb, the United States began began to intervene directly. Basically, kill 2 of our peoples, we'll kill you right back. After assassination of Luis Carlos Gallan, the administration of Cesar Garbas moved against Escobar and his drug cartel. Eventually, the government negotiated with Escobar and convinced him to surrender and cease all criminal activity in exchange for a reduced sentence and preferred treatment during his captivity, declaring an end to a series of previous violent acts meant to pressure authorities and public opinion. Escobar surrendered to Colombia authorities in 1991 before he gave himself up. The extradition of Colombian citizens to the United States had been prohibited by the newly approved Colombian Congress in 1991. This act was controversial as it was suspected that Escobar and other drug lords had influenced members of the Continental Assembly in passing the law. Escobar was confined in what became his own luxurious private prison, the Centieta, which featured a football pitch, basically a soccer pitch, a giant dollhouse, a bar, a jacuzzi, and a waterfall. Accounts of Escobar's continued criminal activities while in prison began to surface in the media, which prompted the government to attempt to move him from a more conventional jail on July 22nd, 1992. Escobar's influence allowed him to discover the plan in advance and make a successful escape, spending the remains of his life evading the police. On his death, Escobar faced threats in Colombian police and the United States government and his rival, this Cali cartel. On December 2nd, 1993, Escobar was found in a house in the middle of a middle-class residential area in Medellin by Colombian special forces using technology provided by the United States. Police tried to arrest Escobar, but the situation quickly escalated to an exchange of gunfire. Escobar was shot and killed while trying to escape from the roof. He was hit by bullets in the torso and the feet, and the bullet which struck him in the ear, killing him. This sparked debate about whether he killed himself or whether he was shot dead. After his death, soon after Escobar's death and subsequently fragmentation of the Medellin cartel, the cocaine market became dominant by the rival Cali cartel until the mid 1990s when its leaders were either killed or captured by the Colombian government. The Robin Hood image that Escobar had cultivated and maintained at the last influence in Medellin, many there, especially many of the city's poor whom Escobar had aided while he was alive, mourned his death, and over 25,000 people attended his funeral. Some of them considered him a saint and prayed him for receiving divine help. Escobar was buried at a Marcinta Sirinco cemetery. But that's about that. What is yeah, that's about it. What's really strange, I mean, if you've seen photos of his prison, it was a pretty nice prison. I worked in a prison, and it's not it was never that nice. It was basically his home away from home. But when I say that in the beginning of this, that he basically made the streets flow with his money at one point in time, the reason why I say that is because he had so much money or so much cash, and he couldn't launder it that fast that he would bury the money. He basically made so much money that the rats would eat it. It would literally, if there was a big downpour, it would flood and the money would rise up and flow through the streets. It'd literally flow through the streets and through the rivers and the banks. You could just pick up this money. There a lot of his money is unaccounted for. That's another thing. But in hindsight, he ran a ruthless organization, and anybody that got in his way, he did kill. That's the reason why he's a psycho, a sociopath, because he murdered a lot of people. But he did do a little bit of good with his money. That's what most mafioso type people, cartel mafioso, uh criminal organization, they try to keep the peace within their community and everything by buying a lot of stuff for their community, which is, sorry, talking a lot, got to drink. But it just, it helps your, to the point to where a lot of people, it's a lot harder for someone to arrest you if you do a lot of charitable donations and whatnot. But that's about it for Pablo Escobar. Thank you for all for watching, listening, whatever you're doing. Love you guys. Talk to y'all later.